I'd like to call the meeting to order, the meeting of the Community Development Commission for the City of Urbana. And Sheila, do you want to take roll?
You're welcome. Ms. Silvis? Here. Mr. Diana?
Wow, everything's formal.
Mr. Freeman?
Here.
Mr. Hakeem Salam?
Here.
Mr. Braun? Here. Ms. Jones?
Here.
And Mr. White?
So we have a quorum. Thank you, Terry. In your packet, and I want to welcome our new members. It's nice to have you. In
Who
your
are they?
Oh, well, do you want to, why don't you introduce yourselves?
Oh, hi, I'm Patty Jones. I've lived in Urbana for 7 years this time of my life, but I lived in Urbana previously before I changed jobs, and I did my undergrad here at U of I, so it's like my third time back in Champaign-Urbana.
You're orange and blue, so you're good.
Right, yes. And I'm currently employed at the U of I. I'm the Associate Director for Research at the Beckman Institute.
Oh, yeah, sure. Okay.
I'm Darius White. I've been in Urbana for a year. Me and my wife bought our home actually June 14th last year. So, and before that, we were in Champaign for about 3 years. And I am the Senior Program Coordinator for the Champaign Partnership.
Oh, okay. Nice to meet you all.
Welcome. It's nice to have you. Nice to have you in Urbana. So in your packet, you received the minutes from our previous meeting. So someone's had a chance to review those minutes. Are there any questions? I'll entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
There's a second. Any discussion of the minutes? That would be the minutes from May 17th, or May 7th, sorry. Okay, there's been a motion and a second. All in favor of approving the minutes of May 7th as written, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The ayes have it, and the minutes are approved. So are there any additions to our agenda for this evening?
Yes, there are. I need to add a third resolution,
Okay.
and that is to approve Urbana Home Consortium Chodo Agreement for Operating Funds for Habitat for Humanity.
Okay. And do we have any paperwork on that, or we'll just do that when we get there?
I mean,
We
we've
could-
got the, I included the
It's in the
resolution.
packet, it's just not on the agenda, okay.
Right, right.
Right, okay, thank you.
Mhm.
So there's an addition. Is there any input from the public this evening?
I've invited Chad Hoffman, the Executive Director at Habitat, to speak on the Chodo applications when we get to that point.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, so now we're down to the staff report. Sheila, do you want to walk us through the staff report?
Sure. Let's see here. For the new members, if you have any questions, please stop me along the way. But this is the tail end of our grant season. So last week we submitted our annual action plan. This is the 5th year of the plan. So next year, or right now, we have started the consolidated planning process. The consolidated plan is a 5-year plan, and then each year we do an annual action plan that ties back to that, that says what we're going to be doing with our federal funds. So staff has been pretty involved with that. We have gone to various trainings. We're involved with the Continuum of Care. Next month, we're going to a training on lead hazards in regards to our tenant-based rental assistance program. So our staff is consisting of 3 people right now, and I'm not sure how many of you saw the budget meeting, but we are going to be losing Randy Burgett, which is a good thing for him, but we'll be looking at creative ways to do our rehab programs, and hopefully we'll be outsourcing it and not staffing it because it'll be more cost-effective for the city. Randy's last day is going to be the end of October, so you'll have plenty of time to interact with him between now and then. We continue to work with the Housing Authority, Pinewood, the Pinewood project, which is on Colorado and Philo Road, is a permanent supportive housing project that we did the environmental review project and signed off and letter of support. And that should be starting anytime. I see it's on the Housing Authority's agenda for the plan review, so they're very close to starting that. We, of course, continue to monitor the Community Development Block Grant and Emergency Solutions Grant Program, as well as home. Blight reduction is a grant that we got through the Illinois Housing Development Authority, and it was a partnership with Habitat for Humanity because a nonprofit had to be the end owner of the projects. 16 projects were completed, and those projects are just now, the first ones are being started to end their retention period, and so you'll see Habitat either selling or starting to build on the projects. So that's pretty exciting. It made a really big difference in a small neighborhood. And then the abandoned property program, we just took down a house at 704 North Broadway. But that is a little bit different than blight because we can have, our city of Urbana can own those. So housing rehab projects, we've done 7 this year. Senior repairs, we've done 8. Those are small, emergencies and senior repairs are small projects that we do to owner-occupied houses to allow the residents to continue to live there. Senior repair, the limit is $1,000, and emergency repairs are $8,000. We've had a lot in the same neighborhood of sewer repairs, so I don't know if they had a major fail there or something, but I've had several there. That kind of does it. We had our neighborhood cleanup on May 4th, and had a lot of participation. We did it just at one site this year to try to save cost, and we did cut the project cost down by between half and a third. We still had a lot of seniors that we do go to their homes and pick up the items, but we did have a lot of people. Over 42 tons of product was brought to the cleanup. So, yes, sir.
Yes. Can I question now?
Any
Okay.
questions for Sheila?
I'm sorry, yes, I'm sorry, jumping the gun here. With the tornadoes that we had on last month, was that included in the community product?
No, Public Works did go around and pick up the debris for free for anybody that was in the impacted area, but none of that was brought to this. They can't take yard waste at the cleanup. So it was mostly mattresses, old furniture, some appliances, and just basic junk. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Or treasures, one person's treasures.
So Sheila, I know Randy was involved in the neighborhood cleanup. Is that one of the things that maybe will be outsourced, or what are you thinking about? how
No,
that
we'll
will-
probably try to keep that internal. We're going to be funding a code enforcement, part of a code enforcement position, and then we'll also be doing a public nuisance, so tall grass and weeds. We're funding part of a position with that. And so my goal, I would like to see us do more kind of neighborhood-centered projects, so that neighborhood that had the failing sewers, maybe we do a roof repair program, or maybe we partner with a couple nonprofits and do, things that really aren't eligible for the federal funds, but we could maybe pay them to do neighborhood cleanups as well with us. And so the neighborhood cleanups are just too big. They're too popular, and they really help our senior citizens, so I don't think that they'll go away. But we will always be looking for ways to do it cheaper, because it's a
Yeah.
pretty expensive program.
Yeah, I know it's been well received and and needed. So
Right, right. And it does help our neighborhoods,
Yes,
keeps
yeah.
people from doing illegal dumping, and so.
any other questions for Sheila?
Yes.
Yes.
Just in regards to the neighborhood cleanup, you said that you kind of consolidated the area just due to the budget. What area was the neighborhood cleanup?
We offer it to anybody who is in our targeted neighborhoods, and I can send you a map, or you can look online to see where the community development target areas are. anybody in those areas, they can use the cleanup. But we used to have 2 sites. We had one across on the north side of Dart in that vacant parking lot, and then we also did one by King Parks. And so this year, that neighborhood is mostly senior citizens, and so we still offered the free pickup for them, but then we just offered the street, they could just take it to Dart.
Oh, understand. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments on the staff report? Okay, so let's go on to old business is next on the agenda. Any old business that we need to address? No old business, so now we're on to new business. And we'll start with the 3 resolutions. And do you want to walk us through that
Sure.
material, Sheila?
Sure. The City of Urbana is the lead agency for the Urbana Home Consortium, and that is Champaign County, unincorporated Champaign County, City of Champaign, and City of Urbana. And we get a pot of money from the federal government. This year, it's about $750,000 that we can use to further housing. So it has to end up, that pot of money has to end up with producing a housing unit. So it's either rental assistance, it's new construction, it might be new rental projects, or we might partner with Habitat for Humanity and help them build new houses. But it's required by the federal government that 15% of that pot of money has to go to what they call a CHODO, or Community Housing Development Organization. And right now, the only active CHODO that we have is Habitat for Humanity. And so they have applied for our 18-19 money. They are proposing to do 4 projects. We require them at the time of application to also recertify themselves as a CHODO so that we make sure we're in compliance with the federal guidelines, because things change and people come on and off boards. But if we do it at the time that they apply, then that application is current and good. So this year they're applying to do 4 projects, 1 in Urbana, and the one in Urbana is actually on one of the blight reduction projects, or blight. So that's kind of exciting. And then they're doing 3 in Champaign, and that's exciting for Habitat because for several years they've not been building as much in Champaign because Champaign was more focused on Bristol. So the redevelopment there. So they've applied for the entire pot of money, which is $125,000, 331, and they've included their budget to go along with that, and it's going to be approximately $31,000 per unit. So that's what one of the resolutions is, approving the certification. The second one is approving the developer agreement to build those 4 houses. And then Habitat can also request operating money, which will help them pay staffing salaries, rent, utilities, that type of thing. And there is a 5% cap on what we can spend on that as well. They've requested $7,500 per project, so $30,000 to help build the 4 projects this year. And I'd like to invite Chad to the podium if he's got any questions, or you guys have any questions of Habitat. He'd be happy to answer them.
2 questions for you. I think you may want to just clarify. You said the only CHODO that you had was Habitat for Humanity.
The only active one we have right now is Habitat.
Only active eligible ones you're saying, or, okay.
Yeah, Homestead Corporation
Right.
is one as well, but they kind of come and go, and right now they're inactive.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
And we are
how do
all,
we notify other CHODOs?
we
This is
have
available?
done outreach, we've done trainings. We'd love to get more on board because it just helps us spend the money.
That's exactly right.
you
Instead
know.
of coming to the dime.
Right, right.
And then how much actually is going to Habitat and how much actually is going towards projects of the 125?
The 125 is all project
all
cost.
project cost.
It's
Just
all,
wanted to be
it's
clear.
all boards and nails, yep. And then but the operating side of it, the 30,000 or
Yes.
7,500 per project, that's for their staff time.
Yep. Just want to make clear. Thank you.
So, Chad, excuse me, do you want to introduce yourself and your organization and maybe just give us a little bit of background?
Sure. I'm Chad Hoffman with Habitat for Humanity here in Champaign County. I've been on board for 4 months now at the organization. Thank you. I've been in town for 20 years, so really love being part of Habitat, though. I really do think we have a good mission of where it's a hand up, not a hand out. So we're really helping those homeowners not only purchase their home at a zero-interest mortgage, but making sure they remain in those homes by giving them education in terms of how to pay the mortgage, how to make sure they have a good rate on insurance, just all the things that go into financial management. So I think it's more than just the home that they're getting. They're really getting a leg up in life, and we're really transforming those families. So, I mean, in addition, each family has to put 300 hours in between home and restore and other volunteer activities, which they can choose some on their own as homeowners. So pretty excited in terms of that aspect of our overall goal and so forth. But we target low-income families and provide them housing. So that's kind of the overall mission.
Thank you. So are there any questions for Chad while he's here? At one point, we actually this commission toured some of the homes that Habitat built. One that we went through was right across from King's School, which I look at every time I drive by. It's beautiful. And I know you usually invite the commission to, the opening celebration. So do you have plans for that? There
Yeah,
might
we would
be some
obviously
interest.
invite the commission again when we have our next welcoming party for the new family moving into a home. And anytime there'd want to be a tour independent of that, I'd be happy to go around with the commission as well and just show you some of our homes. We wouldn't be able to get in without the homeowner permission,
Yeah.
but obviously we could at least look from the outside at the very least. And over 110 homes built in Champaign County since our founding, so really making an impact. And especially in Urbana, there's one community where we have a very strong focus of houses, and I think with the blight reduction properties, we'll move back into Urbana even more so as those become available in terms of building for that community. So.
And, any of you who want to do a little driving tour, the area that Chad's referencing is Wright Street is the western boundary, University is the southern, Lincoln is the far east, and then really Eade Street is the northern boundary. And in that little area, there were 10 blight reduction properties that were demolished and really cleaned up. And you'll notice as you drive the neighborhood that those vacant lots, they'll soon become redeveloped, or some of them may be deeded to a neighbor who's maintained the lot, and they may build on them as well. Some are being used as a community garden, but those are all things that have made a big improvement in that little neighborhood. So.
I think for me, if in the packet, you could just list the physical address or even an image of some sort, so we can get I can Google it on my computer or my phone and look at it, but just so that we can have a reference to look at it before we get to the property, or before and after shots or something.
So, yeah, the 4 for this year are in the packet, but yeah, you're talking about completed projects then?
No, just the location, so we can,
Okay. Oh, I see. Like
just so I can view it before it's
get a
just
feel
matter
for it,
of-
yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah,
Okay.
I can certainly do that.
Okay.
And, I'll check with Charlie Smythe too, but it might be fun for us to do a little neighborhood tour of projects in Urbana, especially for the newer members, where you can see how these partnerships all work together, and the impact that we can have on those smaller neighborhoods. Invite Habitat and Homestead and, city staff as well.
Sure. Just as long as someone provide cookies, I'll go.
Of course.
Amen.
Of course.
Actually curious to know like how the decision is made when the property is chosen, the locations, with there just being 3 in Champaign and 1 in Urbana. If you can kind of give me some information on how you go about choosing those.
Honestly, our families choose the location. So once our families have been accepted into the program, we show them all available lots that we have, and then they choose where they want to locate. So, and that's a requirement in terms of federal guidelines, in terms of the lending process. So typically, we'd have a larger percentage in Urbana. This year, there just happened to be a larger percentage in Champaign. So I'm sure next year we'll flip the script likely in terms of the number of houses.
I think you may, I have asthma, so you have to excuse me. I think you may be asking a different question. how do we come to acquire the properties before we went to Habitat?
There's a variety of ways. So through the Blight Reduction Program, it was a joint project with the City of Urbana and Habitat. And Habitat purchased them because they could work easier with the residents that wanted to get rid of the property, and then Urbana managed the demolition contract, but the requirement of that grant was that Habitat be the end owner. This abandoned properties program is a little different. The city can own that, and so we have torn down, since I've been here, 2 houses, one at 1407 Beslin, which we will be deeding that lot over to Habitat to build, and if you drive down Beslin in that 1400 block, there's 4 Habitat homes, so this would give them the ability to do a 5th Habitat home in that one little block, as well as 704 North Broadway. And it's going to be a challenge. It may turn out to be a neighborhood garden or a parkette, but it's in the floodplain, so we have to be careful. We don't want to deed that to Habitat and then they have to spend a lot of money to raise it up out of the floodplain. So, but we get them a variety of ways. Sometimes, you know, an owner passes and the kids don't want the property, so they'll deed it to Urbana, and, you know, Habitat can talk for how they get the properties, but that's how Urbana does.
Yeah, a lot of our properties are donated to us because they're in a neighborhood where there's not necessarily new development going up unless we're providing housing in those areas. There are sometimes some of those processes where we might have to pay just a little bit of money just to purchase a property, but that's a rarity. And the blight reduction is really going to be our biggest kind of section we build into Urbana in the coming years. As those become available to put houses on, we'll really focus on that and make sure families see those lots for what they are, and hopefully they'll select them as they go through our process. So, yeah.
So Sheila, while we're on the topic, could you just, I remember hearing about how the city did the demolition of a house that was not salvageable and the cost and process for that. Do you just want to talk a little bit about that? Because when I first learned about that, I was surprised at the cost and the extent of work that it takes to get a lot from a derelict
Yeah.
house to a buildable lot.
Right. The blight reduction houses, we were reimbursed $35,000 per unit, and on average, I would say they ran between $35,000 and $40,000 to acquire the project and demolish it. Because it's federal funds, there's a lot of unique things that have to be done. We have to test for lead-based paint. We have to make sure it's disposed of properly, and so those kind of things add to the cost of it. But it is very expensive to do. And another thing that our code enforcement is doing is blighted properties that have been abandoned or foreclosed upon, they are trying to do as the city maintains the property, then they try to go in and foreclose on those liens so that maybe we can get those through deeds to redevelop the neighborhood as well. We recently had one on Learman, and we put it up for auction. The property wasn't bad. It could be rehabbed, and so we put it up for auction, and one of the neighbors across the street bought it for their family to fix up and live there. So, there's just a variety of creative ways we have to do things with a little bit. So, did I answer your question, Ann? Thank you.
I mean, it's always interesting to think about not just the cost of building a home, but making the lot buildable.
Right.
It's pretty costly.
Yep. Yeah, and when those houses are torn down, Urbana makes sure that they're compacted and put so where they can be rebuilt upon. So they don't allow them to bury the foundations anymore, because that just turns out to be a cost to Habitat to go in when they start the excavation, and then they find these bonuses, and it just costs them a lot more money to tear them down or to build.
So are there any more questions
Yeah.
for Chad? Okay.
Thanks, Ann. So, are there 4 properties or 2 properties? that
There's
were-
4.
Okay, so it says 2 in the resolution.
Oh, I'm sorry. There should be 4.
Okay, and so that's on Beardsley and Champaign, Columbia and Champaign, Church and Urbana, and Eureka and Champaign?
Yep.
Okay, and so construction has begun on Beardsley and the Columbia properties, is that right?
they've started.
Okay, so why is the amount allocated the same for those properties if they've already been started?
Because they haven't fully paid out the cost of the project yet. So they've used other funds to get to this point, but then they'll use those to complete the project.
And those other funds are available for the other two properties that haven't started? Is that the idea?
Correct.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Okay. So the specific two, if you look at the third amendment that we're voting on, where'd it go? So that an agreement providing 125, et cetera, in the home program funds for the creation of 2 affordable single-family units. That should
And
be
it's,
4?
that should be 4.
Okay.
And I'll make that correction.
And can you go through how the operating costs are calculated? So it says in our staff report on page 2, up to 5% of a PJ's home allocation may be used to provide general operating assistance.
Yes.
But then it's $30,000 out of $125,000?
No, the 125,000 can only be used for bricks and sticks, so they say.
Yep.
That's only for the building materials, but an additional 5% of your allocation, which our 18-19 money was 835,000.
I see.
So
okay.
5% of that 835
gotcha.
can be used for Choto operating if we so choose.
Gotcha.
And last year, that was part of the annual action plan.
Right.
It's kind of just been a base amount that staff has always done 7,500 per project. They've done that for a long time. That may be something we want to come back and revisit as we look at the consolidated plan and talk to our Chotos about what their real costs are.
Right.
But they kind of have just always done this flat fee of 7,500 per project.
Gotcha. Those are all my questions.
So that makes me think, Sheila, that maybe one of the reasons that we don't have more organizations as Chotos is because it's difficult fiscally. So that assessment might encourage others to want to work on these types of projects.
Yep,
That's a good idea.
yep.
Yeah, it is intense paperwork. It really is.
Yeah, and there's a lot of restrictions that come with it. You know, since Chad is new, as I was writing up their agreement this week, I kept saying, oh, this is something else you need to know, because he can be audited by HUD for up to the next 10 years. So he has to keep all his paperwork and documentation to support that project, and not just the home piece, the entire project, for 5 years after the affordability date. So, you know, that's a little bit more sophisticated than somebody just coming in and building a house, and so that takes some hand-holding and some understanding as well.
Yeah.
That's what I was saying about paperwork. Having started 3 Chotos, they're all active, but man, you got to have staff and, are you with me?
And the board requirements, at least for us.
That's
is
exactly
something
right.
We have to
Right.
be very cautious of and watch carefully. So
That's
it's
exactly
it's
right.
it's
No conflicts.
definitely very intense. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've had a
Well,
quick learning curve.
We're glad to have you as a partner.
Yeah, thank you guys for being our partner.
So are there other questions, comments, discussion about the 3 resolutions in front of us? And can we do those all as one
Sure.
motion? Okay. Anybody interested in making a motion?
Well, I would move to send the agreements on to the city council with our approval, with the one change being the
Yes.
correction of 2 properties to 4 properties,
Okay,
which is in the third resolution.
okay, thank you. Is there a second for that motion?
Second.
Second? Any discussion? All in favor of the motion as described by Michael with the caveat, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you. And thank you, Chad, for providing background on the projects.
Welcome. Glad I could help. Do you mind if I sit in for the rest of your meeting? Is that okay?
Yes.
You're
No.
welcome to.
Yeah. I'm going to jump back so I'm not
It's-
on the mic.
It'll be about a minute.
It'll be less than a minute.
Seconds longer.
Less than a minute. Are there any other comments for the good of the cause? Okay, well, having exhausted our agenda, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.